Hey Bloom Babes, I'm back with another video. Today we're going to be making a beach lazy Susan. I'm doing more blues, purples. I mean, you can do whatever colors you want, but I was going for like a deep blue at the top and like kind of fading into a purple. So I'm using violet, metallic purple, brilliance, blue, light violet, and I do a couple layers of the color. So definitely you can use these colors if you want to get the same look, or if you wanted a different kind of ombre look, you can try that. I'm using sand from Michaels, seashells from Michaels, and then, you know, those crystals that are on that top shelf. I just grabbed one and had my husband hammer it into smaller pieces, and that's what I'm using as like my rock islands. I'm using unbleached titanium to mix a little bit with the sand, just to make sure that it has the coloring that we want. So I was just putting this into a bigger cup. This is my resin already mixed. I am using Olagan epoxy art resin. It's a 1-to-1 ratio. I am a brand ambassador for them, and I really do like this resin. It's definitely my favorite now. I've been using it for about 6 months or so, probably a little longer, but it's really easy to work with, very clear, just an all-around good resin. So I added some sand into my resin, and then I'm adding a little bit of the coloring and just going to mix that up. I probably should have added a little bit more resin and sand. I just felt like I didn't have enough. I made it work, but it definitely felt like I didn't have enough. So kind of looks like oatmeal, forbidden oatmeal. So as you see on my wood round, I used acrylic paint as like a primer almost, just to make sure my colors were going to show through and be bright and vibrant, and not really like, I didn't want the wood grain to show through my beach. So I like basically painted off where my water was going to be, and then where the wood was, the wood grain is where the sand is going. So I've been experimenting with making beaches for a little bit, and right now this is not my favorite technique. It works, but definitely an easier way to make sure you're getting like a full opaque beach where you're not kind of seeing through the water so much is to either paint or spray paint your base and then do your pour after that dries. So this way is still good because it does create some depth, especially because I'm going to be going over this in a couple of layers. So we're going to add depth with the color, but we'll get into that in a minute. So I'm adding just dry sand right onto the resin mixture that I placed on there. And I'm just trying to add some texture and then also fill in like those little bald spots where you can see the wood grain. And so right on top of the sand mixture, I'm actually going to start adding like the rock that my husband hammered for me, and then seashells like 1 by 1. Any placement that you wanted, you know, works. And I was just adding some clear resin over the crystal and the seashells just to make sure everything was adhered. And then I also wanted to make sure that the seashells didn't look like matte. I wanted them to still be glossy like the rest of the piece. So my first color, I'm using my Brilliant Blue. You can use any blue. I just wanted it to be like a deep purpley blue, like super deep, like almost navy. I added some violet in there, And then I also added a little bit of black just to darken it a little bit. Remember, when you're adding your pigments, you only need 10% of pigment to your portioned resin. So I'm mixing it up with a silicone stick. Well, it's like a plastic stick, but same thing. Okay, so we have our deepest blue purple. And then I was going for something that was more of a natural purple. This one was actually a metallic purple. So it does have like an iridescent kind of shimmer to it. It was really pretty. And it did go well with the deep blue. I think where I went wrong, as you'll probably see, is my lightest color, like how it should have faded to like a really pretty lavender. I didn't get that lavender with my first coat, but I did with my second. That really pretty shimmer, that's metallic purple acrylic paint. And then my final one, and for this one I'm using light violet. So I grab another plastic stick and I'm just mixing that. And also just make sure, included in what may not be shown, make sure you have your heat gun with your concentrated nozzle. I'm showing you my Mixol white tint oxide, and I have a little cup of resin, like literally like maybe a fourth filled, like not too much. I also have another cup that has about a fourth filled of resin as well, and that one's just clear resin. So in addition to the colors that you're using, you also need a small cup of white resin, preferably with the Mixol pigment, and one little fourth cup of clear resin, and that's for your waves. So my hands were sticky, so I was trying to spray them with alcohol. I sprayed my piece with alcohol because there were bubbles with the sand mixture. So we're gonna remove our cups and get ready to pour. And we are off. And so when I poured it down, that's when I kind of realized that that darker color was like really dark. It was blue on camera, but it was like this deep navy blue, and that's not quite what I wanted. It was like midnight almost, so you can see when I'm spreading it, the true color. Really pretty, but I wasn't planning to go that dark. Just make sure you're also covering your sides. So either tape your sides so that, remember to either tape your sides so it has the wood grain showing once you're done with your finished piece, or make sure that your resin is flowing over the sides. And so that's what I was doing. I was making sure to put resin on the sides. And next I'm going in with my metallic purple. Just kind of spreading it around, making sure that it's as even as it can be for its layer. I didn't want the colors to be like a color block, so I made sure to use my finger to spread the colors between each other. so that there was some of that like deep blue flowing into the metallic purple and vice versa. And make sure you're getting your sides as well. Definitely will be helpful in the long run. And last, we have our light violet. So you see how that light violet came through pretty dark. I was expecting it to be more along the lines of like a lavender almost, but not really. But it definitely came through as like a true light violet. So that was my fault. I should have added some white into that. I just was like, it'll be fine. But in comparison to the other two, I wanted it to be like an ombre. So pulling from the deepest color to the lightest. But I went through with it still, so I'm just spreading the resin around, making sure it covers all the parts. And I am mixing it between the three. So I do still want some of that deeper blue to come down to this level, and just kind of mixing it through so it doesn't look like, too color blocky or too like structured. You want it to still be like a beach or ocean, just where it's flowing. So now we're gonna go in with our clear. The clear we put down first. One, it's like a guide. It guides you to where you're going to be putting your waves down. But two, it kind of creates almost like a guard between the white and your actual colors, so that when you're using your heat gun to blow the white, it's not blowing the colors into your waves. It keeps it separated. So we're putting down our mixed white right now, and it's had some time to thicken up, so it's really good. And you're laying it either right on that clear or right in front of the clear. In front of meaning where you're pushing the heat gun or pushing the waves towards, that's where you're putting your white. So as you see, I put some right on the shoreline, so I'm pushing that with my heat gun, and it has that focused, concentrated nozzle on there. So it makes it really easy to just blow the waves. And if you notice the angle I'm holding my heat gun, I'm not putting it like bird's eye view straight down at the waves. I have it angled almost like cocked to the side at an angle. So I'm literally using like a portion of the heat gun to blow the waves. Like, it's not direct. I think that's what some people may have trouble with. It's not direct aimed down. It's, like you're just using the side of the heat gun to get that heat to blow. So I added another piece of glass, and then I'm actually adding my bigger pieces right into the water as if it's like a rock island or crystal island. So I added that right in. And then I wanted to make it as if there were waves around the island too. So I have clear going around that first, and then I put the white right around that clear. And then I'm using my heat gun to kind of blow it outwards. This is definitely a trust the process piece, because I was not a fan with just this. So trust the process. I added some more white for my waves because I just was not satisfied. I added some around the rocks inside of my beach as well. And you can, add as many waves or as little as you wanted. It's definitely about preference. Usually 3 is a good number for me, so I try to stick with 3 or less. So I'm just blowing out the last of those waves. And once I do this, that's it for day 1. We're gonna let that dry overnight and come back for day 2. All right, day 2. With this day, we are going over our colors again. So we're creating some depth. We don't want to see the wood or anything underneath. So we're going to use these colors to add some depth and just a deeper water. So we're using that violet, more metallic purple mixed with just like a natural purple. And then this time when we do light violet, I'm actually adding white to it. So we're gonna make it much lighter than what's showing on there right now. And then I have my Mix-All Oxide White tint. So I'm just adding my resin into the portioned cups so I can get ready to mix each color. Make sure you're also pouring aside a little bit of clear resin and a little bit for your white tint. So you should have your 3 colors that you're using, white and clear. Okay, we're just gonna speed that up because I take forever. But just mixing in my colors as I showed you. And once you have your colors all mixed, you can go ahead and get ready to pour. So I'm going to put that violet color on top where my blue, that deep blue, black almost. So adding this color on top, it looks like it has a really deep undertone, like the water is really deep at that point. So I'm going to go ahead and just make sure I'm covering my entire section that I want covered. Make sure you're also covering the sides. And then as I add each color, I'm kind of mixing it into the next. We want it to kind of be a seamless ombre look. So I'm adding my next color, which is that violet. And then I added some white to my light violet to make it this color. I mixed it with my finger a little bit, added a torch to pop any bubbles, and then I actually went in with my heat gun to blend it a little bit more. You'll see that in a moment. I just wanted to make sure that the colors were blended pretty well, especially because it's the second layer, so it's like the final one. So you just want to make sure it looks good. So with my heat gun right now, I'm doing bird's eye view straight down at the piece to get that to blend. Compared to when we do our waves, we have a heat gun cocked to the side at an angle, and it's kind of pushing the waves with the heat. So we're gonna go ahead and start our waves. We're gonna go ahead in with our clear first, and then we are going to go in with our white right in front of that clear. I'm gonna go ahead and actually heat up that wave first, just to make it easier to push. And then I'm going to push the wave. And you can see the angle of my heat gun better in this clip, how it's not straight on it like we did when we were blending each ocean color. So this time we have our heat gun cocked to the side and we're pushing that wave. So first wave done. We're gonna go ahead and get working on our next in a moment. And we're going to go in with our clear, and then with the white. And make sure your white, if possible, you're letting that one sit a little bit longer. And your cup, you do want it to thicken up a little bit. It makes for like a more saturated wave. When you're using your heat gun, it seems like if you use the white when it's still like at that thin consistency, when you just mix your resin, it blends into your colors a little easier. So let it sit for a while so it can actually sit on top of those colors and blow on its own. Okay, and now we're adding some clear around the rocks on the actual shore. And then also on my little rock island. And then we're gonna add some white. And we're gonna blow out our waves on each one. And this one, it started to come together for me. I really liked it. So we let that dry, and this is the final day. We're gonna go over with another clear coat. Well, this is a full clear coat. No waves were done on this one. We just literally mixed some clear resin and poured it right over the wood around the sides, making sure just to kind of make it more of an even, flat surface. So we lost some texture in the sand, but I came to grips with that. I think I like it better this way. So clear coat for the last day. And these are some steps that weren't shown, but just in case you wanted to follow me all the way. And this is the final piece. We turned it into a Lazy Susan. We added the hardware, sanded the back. It came out really, really pretty. So you can see that dark blue and the depth in there. But that's it. Thank you for watching. Bye.